Welcome to Our Girl Relationships. We talk about the problems people face in their day to day lives. Let's start with the video. My marriage was to be one of convenience. I met my fiance a year and a half ago and brought him home for Thanksgiving last year. That was the first time my parents met him. If there is anything he can do very well, it's to make a good impression, even if he has to pretend. He was handsome and wealthy. My parents thought I had hit the jackpot and told me to never let him go because he was my financial security. At first, he was the man of my dreams, so I gladly agreed to keep him because I thought he was everything I wanted. However, I noticed some red flags as I got to know him more. He was proud and pompous and didn't mind putting others down to make himself look good. I was not fond of that at all, and he did it a lot. He seemed to think everyone was below him, and I started to see his true colors. He would say hurtful words and emotionally blackmail me into thinking I was at fault. I didn't realize it was emotional abuse until one day we had a fight, and I told my friend what had happened. She just mentioned emotional abuse in passing, and then it hit me. I was so in love with him that I didn't know what to do. My logical side knew I had to leave, but I didn't have the strength to. We had already planned our lives together, and I had a vision of how everything would come together. I told my mom about my fears, but she dismissed them, saying that that was typical male dominance. In my mom's eyes, my fiance was perfect, and no one would taint his image no matter how hard you tried. Truthfully, I think he may have had a soft spot for my mom because he was always lovely to her. A few days into our wedding, my fiance was in the bathroom and a call came in for him, so I answered. The person on the other line didn't realize it wasn't him, so he went on speaking, and it was about some shady stuff that could potentially put him in trouble. This got me curious, and so I started searching for clues. We were supposed to go out with our friends that evening, but I told him to go without me because I had a bad headache and didn't feel like coming anymore. When he left, I searched his office and found what I was looking for. I'm trying to not be too explicit, but he was involved in some business deals that were not clean. But I thought I could fix that. Maybe make him see reasons why he shouldn't. Now, even writing it, I know how crazy that sounds. Despite everything, I was still excited to get married. I also thought there was no backing down now because we were only a few days away and everything was set perfectly. When my fiance returned that evening, he informed me that he would make a special speech at the wedding, and I was thrilled to hear it. Fast forward to the wedding now. We actually got married, said wedding vows and all that, and it was time for my fiance's special speech. As soon as he started speaking, I knew something was wrong. I was shocked when he began making public jokes at my family's expense. I couldn't believe the man I was about to marry would humiliate my loved ones in such a way. I felt my blood boil as I listened to him continue his cruel jabs. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. I stood up and interrupted him, announcing to the entire audience that my fiancé was a fraud. I told them about his lies, deceit, and mistreatment of my family and me. I could feel the shock and disbelief in the room as I spoke, but I was determined to expose the truth. As I spoke, I could see my fiancé's face turn red with anger. He tried to deny my accusations, but I wouldn't let him. I told the audience about the times he had lied to me, the promises he had broken, and the way he treated me. My fiancé kept trying to defend himself, but I had all the evidence to support my claims. My parents were shocked and saddened by the revelation, but they supported me nonetheless. The room was in a state of chaos. People were murmuring, some were shocked, others were confused, but I felt relieved. I had finally spoken the truth and was done with this toxic relationship. I then said this marriage had ended even before it began and was a mistake from the beginning. I walked out of the venue with my head held high. I realized that no amount of money was worth sacrificing my self-respect and the love and respect of my family. I may have broken the record for the shortest marriage in history. After everything that happened, we couldn't stay married. My mom was sorry that she didn't listen to me when I tried to share my fears with her because she was so blinded by his charm and her need to see that I had financial security. My ex now wants me to pay him back everything he ever spent on my family and me. I thought that was some stupid joke. I heard that most of his business partners decided they didn't want to work with him anymore after the stunt he pulled at the wedding. So he is pouring his anger on me. That has nothing to do with me. I never asked him to make a condescending speech. I'm thankful that he did. If not, I would have been married to him still, and it would have been a nightmare. He came by my parents' house with a tow truck and took the cars he bought for my parents. That is so petty. The cars were in his name, so they had to let it go. Good thing they hadn't sold their old ones. He couldn't take the one he bought for my last birthday because it was in my name, and if he had tried, I would have reported him for stealing. He has been ringing up my phone and threatening me in texts, saying that I would be sorry if I didn't return all his money. He said he would have his assistant draft all the expenses and he would send me how much I owe him. How crazy can this man get? I decided to ignore him. It's not like he paid for my wasted time and love and all the times I stayed at his house performing wife duties. He must have figured that I blocked him, so he went to my family and friends now to tell them to ask me to bring his money to him as soon as possible. He really wasn't joking about this thing, and it was ridiculous for a man who claimed to be well trained and traveled. My mom was getting scared, and she said I should give him whatever I could so he could get off our backs. There was no way I was doing that. I despised bullies, and he was bullying us. So I wasn't going to let him have a field play. There was no reason why we both couldn't just move on like responsible adults. After all, people break up every day. I needed some time to heal from all this. I was still in shock from everything that had happened at my wedding. I didn't think I had it in me to stand up to him, but I love my family too much to let anyone say bad things about them. If I'm being honest, it was a bit embarrassing for me that I had to wash my dirty linen in front of everyone. I wished I had ended things earlier, and it didn't have to be in front of everyone I love and respect. My ex was still throwing tantrums here and there. He just always found something to say or do. It's amazing how he still managed to keep abreast of my activities even after I blocked him. My friend told me that he called her to help him set up a meeting with me and that he meant no harm and wanted to talk. I shrugged it off immediately. I had no intention of meeting with him ever. He had already done so much damage. My friend said it would be best to meet with him, but I should pick the place and make sure it is open to the public in case he tries anything. She even offered to be around for me because she didn't want me to wonder what he would have wanted to say months later. I realized what she said made sense, so I agreed to meet with him on my own terms. It had to be a location I picked and not longer than 30 minutes. I decided for us to meet up at a family friend's restaurant. Most of the workers knew me there, so he couldn't act funny. For the first time, he was there before me. When we were dating, he was always late. He begged me for forgiveness and admitted that he was throwing tantrums because he was upset and heartbroken. He offered to return the cars he bought for my parents, but I said he should keep them. And they were doing fine with the ones they had. I asked him if he understood what he did wrong on our wedding day, which made me flip, and I got a shocking response. He said it just wasn't his day, and maybe his charm didn't work as good anymore. He didn't think anything he said about my family was derogatory. I don't blame him, though. They were the ones who collected his money and always asked for favors. He asked if there was any chance that we could start afresh. I looked into his eyes and couldn't see the man I had fallen in love with. All that had peeled away, and all I could see were his flaws that seemed stronger as he kept speaking. How can one person say all the wrong things? He probably thought his offering to give my parents back their cars would get me running back to him. I told him there was no chance of us getting back together and that he should stop trying to contact me or anyone around me. If he was persistent, I would get a restraining order. This was the last meeting I would have with him, and I expected him to respect my decision. The look on his face showed that he was shocked. His charm and sweet talk didn't work on me anymore. I said goodbye to him and excused myself. NTA, good riddance. I'm glad you ended things before you drowned yourself in a toxic relationship. YTA, all I see here is that you were with this guy for money. Your parents accepted him because he was wealthy. Just when he told everyone about your family's shameless ways, you confirmed that they asked him for money. You decided to end it. You knew exactly what you were getting yourself into. You just wished he didn't pick on that. I work full-time and my wife, 35 female, barely works part-time since she can't handle full-time work. Whatever she earns, she keeps for herself and her personal expenses, and I pay for all of our living expenses. I'm content with this arrangement. She does have access to my personal account in case she ever winds up needing a bit of extra money, and my only stipulation is that if it's going to be over $150, tell me about it first. In the 5 years we've been together, there have been a number of times she's helped her friend buy birthday or Christmas presents for her kids. Once or twice, she's been short on what she wanted to spend and has taken from my account to cover expenses. Cool, no biggie. But she told me about it beforehand and it was never anything too extravagant. This year, her friend is needing help again, and my wife brought up helping her out and she may need to borrow some money from me. I told her that was okay, but to not exceed $300 this year. I have a 16-year-old daughter from my previous relationship, and with our financial arrangement, my wife is hands-off when it comes to finances concerning my daughter. Her mother and I decided to split the cost of a used car for her for Christmas. My wife did her shopping for her friend's kids, and when she got home, she told me she exceeded the limit by a lot, like closer to $850 spent. When my wife told me that, I told her she had to take it all back and get cheaper things and that I gave her a limit and why. My wife insisted she couldn't take it all back because she already told her friend what all she got and her friend was over the moon. She felt it was unfair that less fortunate kids had to get less so my daughter could have a car and asked that I talk about delaying the car purchase with my daughter's mother. I told her absolutely not. Since she wouldn't take them back, when she went to shower later in the day, I took her purchases and the receipts and returned them myself. I was able to get cheaper, generic versions of some of the items, but not all. My wife is unhappy about this and has been cold after calling me controlling and unwilling to compromise. I think I compromise plenty, but my daughter comes before one of her friend's kids. AITA? Dang, thanks everyone for the feedback. I'm reading through it all. I'll answer a couple of things that I see popping up. 1. There is a joint account for our house living expenses that covers everything from bills to groceries for our fun money as a couple and emergencies. Money allocated for my daughter and my personal expenses go to my personal account. 2. No, my wife has not bought birthday, Christmas presents each year or used my money to bail her friend out constantly. Her friend does buy essentials for her own kids, and I have no idea what's up with their father. 3. My husband and stepdaughter have a friendly relationship. My daughter does not want her involved as a parent, and my wife respects that. 4. My wife did know I was saving up to split a present for my daughter with my ex. She did not know how much. The car conversation stayed between my ex and I, since funds for the car would not impact my ability to cover our expenses. 5. I am fine with her not working full time presently because she is taking steps to bettering herself and has made progress per pre marriage discussions. NTA, and I would kick her off the account. She agreed and she broke the agreement. That was on her. And I would further explain that my obligation to my daughter far exceeds the wife's obligation to the friend, and that her failure to understand that, and that she took extra money from the account, is why she will no longer have access to that account. NTA, I am bothered by the unwillingness to compromise a bit. You compromise by giving her money at all for spoiling someone else's kids. There is nothing wrong with prioritizing your own child first. As a step-parent who raised two kids, I am appalled that she doesn't want to involve herself more with your daughter. When you marry someone who has kids, it is a package deal. If you can't grasp that, you have no business dating someone with kids in the first place. Both me, 37 female, and my husband, 40 male, work from home. He works in the basement and I work in an upstairs converted office. I also have a daughter, 17 female, from a previous relationship who lives with us full time. Anyways, last Thursday, my husband told me that his brother, 36 male, brother's wife, 36 female, and nephews, 11 and 7 male, would be coming over on what is now today. I immediately told him, hell no, as today was my biggest annual meeting with one of our biggest clients, who is a local chain of retailers. I am the associate director, the partnership between our companies, and so I would have to help give a presentation. However, he kept telling me that they had just told him they were coming over. I finally relented but told him that the kids would need to be quiet and could not be upstairs. Anyways, today swings around and I go to get ready. My daughter locks her room so that the kids can't get in. Inside, she has a gaming setup worth over $2,000 of gifts and stuff she has saved up from waitressing. I also locked my doors after I got my lunch. At about 1, they arrived over. I was in the middle of my meeting at this point, while about 20 minutes later I hear 2 steps of small footsteps run up the stairs. They immediately start trying to get into my daughter's room, which is right next to my office. I immediately started texting and calling my husband, but he didn't respond. About 5 minutes later, I excused myself to the restroom just as the kids went into my daughter's room. I kicked them downstairs and told them not to come back. A little later, after I got back to my meeting, I could hear the kids screaming from downstairs. Again, I text my husband and nothing happens. It stayed that way until 4:45 when my meeting was finished. I then went down to my husband's office and just let loose. Among other things, I called him a little frickin' pussy. I then grabbed my daughter and took her to my parents' house where I will be staying the night. I honestly feel if I am on the edge of divorce. This post may be a mess because I am still worked up. I am going to sleep for the night. Tomorrow morning, I'm going to get my laptop from the house. We'll check in on her setup and all my other stuff. I am going to stay at my parents' house for a few days. I am definitely going to talk to therapists and reflect. Thank you for everyone's love and support. NTA, you said no, but your husband refused to accept that. Then you relented and gave boundaries on what you expect while they visit. But as soon as they came, not only did they not respect those boundaries, the kids forcefully unlocked your daughter's locked room with a coin and then screamed and cried a lot when they got caught by you when you're supposed to be part of an important work meeting that can't afford to be interrupted. While all this was happening, your husband completely ignored all your communications when he's the one that insisted on them coming over, and his brother and bro's wife, for some reason, did not stop the kids from screaming and barging in when they were also supposedly there, moving furniture or something. Where and what the heck were they doing then? And why couldn't it have been postponed to a non-work day and time? If this is a constant thing, I can see why you called him a P word and want a divorce or be away from him. NTA. Your choice of words is debatable, but I understand that after being so clear about the importance of the day and to be left alone to actually work, you just snapped. It was wrong of him to even allow the visit to begin with. You were both busy working, and it seems to me that nobody watched the kids, which is dangerous and makes me wonder where their parents were and why they wanted to come to begin with. Take all the time you need to calm down and be able to think straight again. You might want to try counseling with your husband in case you want to give him another chance, but the boundaries need to be clear.